was interested in sustainability as my guiding life ideal or principle for many years, but I've kind of shifted to where harmony is what I'm about. I grew up in a small village. It brings tears to my eyes. I'm sorry. Let me struggle through this. I grew up in a small village and with the Dene people. I'm originally from the Cree tribe. And my experience with the Dene was left a profound, lasting impression about my experience then going into engineering and then going into a bit of a stellar superstar career in construction, building very large projects, world-scale projects, $1 billion projects before I was 26 years old. So I had a lot of fortuitous things happen to me, and it gave me quite a range. And after I came out of that, I did a public mining company, and then I decided I really want to leave a legacy or do something where I could feed my family, provide my economic well-being, and then do something for humanity, to be in service in some way. So I chose the sustainability field and started looking at solutions. And as an engineer, you at least think when you graduate that you've pretty much got a range of the field. But I came to, after meeting a dear friend of mine, Gene Manning, the author of The Coming Energy Revolution and a number of marvelous books, to meet a lot of the key players in the underground research community. And they're underground because, for a lot of reasons, their work is seen as heretical or heresy, and nobody funds heresy, and you don't want to be associated with those crazy Nikola Tesla fools. But aside on the Tesla thing is all his papers are still held in the National Security Archives. And if he was a kook, well, why don't they burn those papers or at least put them out there? So think about things like that. So I started doing a historical review of the renewable energy or the energy innovation space. And that really got to be I became an energy innovation addict and went to where probably now over 500 technologies have been reviewed by myself and some of my science colleagues. And they're quite notable colleagues, Boeing top aerospace people, Lockheed Martin, Dr. Patrick Bailey, Dr. David Swan, the list goes on and on and on. And then in the Gene Manning underground research community, the John Hutchison, famous inventor here from Vancouver, and you try and pull all that together and look at the innovation map, and it turns out history is replete with energy innovation and inventions. The game changers were the ones that were of interest to me. Now, when I say game changers, I'm talking about not incremental change, I'm talking about technology being a mechanism to give us the world that we all want. And John's pessimistic and graphs and whatnot, I really see a world in the mid and the long term where it's very abundant and, in fact, very clean and very cheap. And this will give us a new state of harmony for humanity. But I pushed the blue energy technology, and I selected it first because it was a game changer. But game-changing technology come up against what I've come to see as their Meissner field limits. You can't push a solution before the field, the quantum field is there that will permit or enable or facilitate that future. And I learned this concept from a dear friend of mine, Hazel Henderson. The heads of OPEC met twice since the inception of OPEC. One was a meeting in Caracas, and she was given a blank check to go out and find the smartest people in the world, and they put 68 of us in the room. I didn't consider myself one of the smartest ones, so I don't know how I got there, but there were very bright people in that room, and what came out of that was a series of meetings and afternoons in her pool in Jacksonville, Florida, and she's got a circle of friends that call themselves futurists. These people have no agenda other than service. And I was struck very by her stature, presiding over 68 of us in this room in Caracas. with Chavez, of all people, how she had this standing in the room and our respect. And it was really quite profound. She became one of the great economists of the world because she took a night school course on basic accounting to balance the family checkbook and basically develop new economic theory and the social organisms, the consciousness, and all of that coupling and stuff like that. So they have a view and a model, and it's one that I agree with, and I think science is really coming to where it's supporting the theory. And she calls it the attention economy. This is a field of consciousness that we've got 7 billion of us on the planet now. With that 7 billion units of consciousness, we're all quantumly networked. And in that networking, we're firing in a signal in the field of possibility. And the experience that we're having today is an experience as a consequence of prior signal input. Now, when I say I came up against the limits of the reality model and trying to advance a game-changing solution in blue energy, it would start to behave quantumly. You need management, you need capital, you need organizational development, you need technology, you need engineers, you need constructors, you need all those things. Say if you need 10 things, well, I would get 8 of them together and just trying to force the last 2 pieces together, and whoops, what I had behind me would kick out. I was starting to get the sense that this was behaving quantumly. I was up against the actual limits of the future. And so about that time, the movie What the Bleep came out. And I thought, wow. How many people have seen the movie What the Bleep? I encourage everybody to see it. So I went down to the Ramp the Mystery School and started doing some of the training down there. There's some remarkable things. NASA showed up, and because they're interested in long space flight, the journey of bringing crew and support systems, if people could train their minds, if the astronauts could train their minds to interface with the control systems, they could do away with a lot of the heavy weight that is such a burden and such a heavy cost to getting interplanetary flight. So they came and studied, and for the first time in 30 years in the American Journal of Physics, studied the ambient field at the Mystery School, and they had calibrated force plates, and some of the scientists in the room would know about how tedious you have to go to calibrate a force plate. And some of these people in their meditation were losing 15-20% of their body weight, and going on, there was card readers there reading 52 cards out of a 52-card deck. This really got me excited because it turns out when you take the information from the futurists, the quantum physicists, we're making this all up. And that's an inevitable conclusion. Not too many people will share it today, but that's an inevitable conclusion. We're making this thing all up. So I challenge us to start thinking about, if we've made this up and we don't like it, how do we make something up that we do like and that in fact serves us? So you have to start looking again at the basic existential questions. And I'll just flip through some of these technologies. That's our tidal bridge at Blue Energy. And here's what I was talking about with pushing up against the limits of the reality model. This is a little laboratory experiment showing the effect of the Meissner field. Now, quantum mechanics, back to What the Bleep, is probably accounting for 90% of our reality model. And we've yet to integrate quantum mechanics into our daily lives. It's still ensconced on the blackboard in some of the laboratories and particle physics, but just how does it come home to each of us as an individual? And here you see the anti-gravitic properties of it, but it's also magnetic in that he'll lift that superconducting material there at almost at a very cold temperature. It spins, and it just stays there. Well, a vision or a future, until it accumulates a certain amount of potentiality and quantum mass, Hazel's model again, we all participate in the attention economy. Until there's sufficient attention on a future, it'll always be in the future. There is a tipping point where it will flow forth and come into being. So these are the issues in propagating technologies. It's not about better technologies or better integration of them or capital or a horrible oil company keeping the resources and things like that. It's up against the Meissner field limits. So this brought me to my personal development. And I learned at the mystery school some of the things that I took back to when I was a boy on the trap line up along the Mackenzie River. And I grew up in this little village here on the Mackenzie River with the Dene. I'm from the Cree tribe, but I was basically adopted by the Dene. And in this village, there was a cultural lineage of about, they claim, 30,000 years, and I believe them. Now, today, when I have some of those, I go over some of those memories, I remember the elder by the campfire and, clouds of mosquitoes. They've got mosquitoes this big up there, okay? And not one of them landing on him. What was he doing? He couldn't afford the mosquito dope. What was he doing? Was it his body odor? No, it wasn't. He was just being different in his environment in a more harmonious way. So those sort of things brings us to question and see ourselves in a new role in humanity, a new role to where there's a thought out there today called our sovereignty, our individual sovereignty. What was the purpose of us coming to this planet, if you can accept that thought? We came here for some very important purposes. And if our activity and our pursuits today deviate from that, the model's going to self-correct. So we've got all this huge, huge power, as Linda showed in her diagrams, coursing through us, coming from the original region of the Big Bang, going through the center of the sun, a pathway of energetic singularity, a non-local effect. We're using that manifesting creativity in an unaware mode, if you would. We're miscreating when we can start consciously creating a desirable future together and facilitating that. So these old quantum integrated people living up in this village helped me when I started working with the scientists to bring this picture together to give myself the personal tools where I could do this work at Blue Energy or finish this work at Blue Energy and then maybe participate in other solutions. And believe me, the innovation pipeline is a full pipeline. There are a lot of solutions. I see handheld technologies this big with 10 kilowatts. That's enough to power 3-4 homes in a city block. There are researchers out there today that I know will get that job done. So from this village, there's a wisdom. I played in that same field with those boys, and that's where we win that quantum integration. These people have the quantum integration. We're all still wondering, since it's been on the blackboard since the 20s, how does that affect us? It does affect us. It's 80-90% of our reality. So we can look and mine more of the wisdom from the Aboriginal people, the experience in Bali, the people of the Dene, the elders, Chief Seattle. All of this is wisdom that will not go away, but it's there as an input to where we can take our potentiality. And the opportunity here is for each of us to clarify that state of being. And that creative energy is available through Linda's model. When she had me doing the breath work, I was starting to kickstart my pituitary gland. For most of us, we learned that those are atrophied glands in the brain, and you could probably remove them, and it wouldn't make any difference. Well, we're not using them. You just as well remove them. Okay, but we can be taught to use them. The caduceus that was shown earlier was a symbol and a sign left from the mystics. That's your spinal column in the fluid sac. And you can start to use body pressure, to use it as a hydraulic cylinder, to push up on the back part of your brain and actually secrete a pituitary secretion. And I've gone and experimented with that, and I can get the energy flowing through me where I feel like my body's just going to fly apart. And I'm just starting to tap into this energy. But that's there for us to create the signal and inputs and the broader bandwidth of consciousness to create this future that's desired. And what they're learning today in quantum biology and the neural nets is profound, profound. I see out of this work coming where we can choose to live as long as you want. Age is a problem with cellular replication. And if your telomere hairs are thinking the same thoughts, and most of us get dogmatic and think only the same thoughts, we're not expanding our field of consciousness as was the intended design. And if you think expanding thoughts and continue to learn, I guess you could distill it as that, these telomere hairs don't wear out as they go up the code on your DNA. And if the telomere hairs don't wear out, it's the broken hairs that lose the information, so the next generation of cell replication doesn't have all the needed information. If we preserve those telomere hairs, we will get perfect cell replication as long as we don't interfere with the other ways of our thinking. So there's tremendous possibility here and potential for us as individuals and as a humanity. Landmark education, I think, is very important. There are companies that have taken on an ontological clarification and achieved a quantum integration in their management. Lululemon is a local Vancouver company. They're just performing like this. Unbelievable what they're doing in this market. Another big company, one of the directors of Blue Energy is a senior vice president, head of the power division for Alcoa. Alcoa looked at the Broken Hill Properties, BHP, as a takeover candidate in the year 2000. And they were both equal at about $42 billion. BHP took on an ontological, clarified, quantumly integrated management. These people are generating their future, consciously and deliberately generating their future. Alcoa is one of the top Fortune 500 today, maybe $60, $70 billion in capitalization. But BHP is $240 billion. It makes a big difference. So in closing, consider the possibility of reclaiming your personal and your individual sovereignty. And by that I mean hooking up again, going back to who you are and what you are. And other cultures and other peoples can be models for us to take and learn how to change our way of being from our present disconnect and dysfunction to the potential that is our birthright. Thank you.